And welcome to the Hispanic Patriot Podcast, a weekly podcast broadcast live from a secret, undisclosed location in the heart of the newest battleground state of Colorado. We are proud to welcome our many new subscribers to the channel and to announce Colorado as the newly open front in the battle for the soul of our great nation. My name is Nicolas Raso, and without further ado, I present to all of you our fearless patron, Hugo Chavez Rey. Give it up for the Hispanic Patriots.
All right. Thank you, Nick, and my intrepid co-host. We've got a powerful show going on tonight. A lot of interesting topics going on. We're going to be providing you with some information that you may or may not have heard about, and hopefully we can give you some new perspective on what it is that we're looking at with all these things happening around our world today. Not the least of which is the presidential race, of course. But there's some interesting things going on around the country and around the world, and we're going to cover those topics today, including the inimitable state of California and their latest fiasco coming out of that state.
California, our greatest exporter.
Oh yeah, you know what they say: if it starts in California, it ends up in other places, and that's a sad statement, actually. But here in Colorado, we know what that's about because we've certainly gotten our taste of Californication here. So we've got some other topics, including, of course, the controversial Olympics opening and the mocking of Christians around the world. What we now have entitled, by the way, the new Trump opponent, Kamala. Kamala, that's what we're going to call her.
Hope you all enjoy that, folks.
And then, of course, the elections. I say elections in Venezuela that have sparked riots and protests from the people who believe that the election was stolen. We'll get into that here
and will
later.
CNN call them an insurrection?
Exactly.
Probably not.
No. But we begin today with a great story. I say great with a quotation mark.
A great and terrible.
Yeah, great and terrible. California became the first state to bar school districts from requiring staff to notify parents of their child's gender identification change under a law signed Monday by Governor Gavin Newsom.
Gavin, I want to be VP so bad, please, Newsom.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
So the law bans schools. The law bans school rules requiring teachers and other staff to disclose a student's gender identity or sexual orientation to any other person without the child's permission. So now we're going to take away the parents' rights and basically give the authority to the child. Sounds a little backwards to me.
Sounds like the authority's been given to the teachers more than the children. Children being a little bit of a proxy for them.
Mm-hmm. But opponents say it will hinder schools' ability to be more transparent with parents, as if that's what their goal is. The legislation comes amid a nationwide debate over local school districts and the rights of parents and LGBTQIA, they mainly see students.
You got it.
This law helps keep children safe while protecting the critical role of parents, Brandon Richards, a spokesperson for Newsom, said in a statement. It protects the child-parent relationship by preventing politicians and school staff from inappropriately intervening in family matters and attempting to control if, when, and how families have deeply personal conversations. So now the schools haven't done enough damage. Now they want to basically attack the home of these children and the families and say that they have the say over what takes place in the home. You take it, Nick, because I'm just
Well,
kind of.
honestly, as you know, as a younger generation, Hugo, I experienced a lot more of this growing up than you did because it wasn't so much, the part of the agenda to do so. So when the general idea behind these kind of laws is that the family has broken down. The Democrats will openly admit this, but they'll say, well, the family's broken down because of the moral failures of family units. So that's why we need to move towards a more community centric. As they say, it takes a village to move to this more community centric way of living. And this basically creates two things for them. Number one, it's politically advantageous because it goes along, we could openly say Marxist because this is this traditional social warfare. This is warfare between parents and their children. And this is actually a very big motif. Parents and children do have conflict. And nowadays, I'll say, as somebody who is a young person, I've seen a lot of my young people, my young friends even, have difficulty with their parents. There was situations where we wouldn't want to tell certain parents something. But, that goes back to a principle that's deeper than our modern problems, which is, let's go to the Bible and Christianity. It tells us to be honest at all times. Why? Because the conflict that you get by telling the truth, that's the conflict God wants for you. Telling that truth and facing that conflict because you have to tell the truth, that's what God wants from you. So if these people in these sexual orientations truly know in their heart of hearts that they are doing nothing wrong by what they're doing, they should have no problem having their parents know. And if their parents are abusive or something like that, I mean to say, it's much better that something is brought about sooner than later because that's where you get repression of the psyche. That's where you get parental problems with the children. That's where you get children who don't even know their parents because they just break off and hang out with their friends all the time. This is something we need to fix, not something we need to constantly cater towards. Say, let's have more teacher control. You can trust your teachers, but not your parents. I get it. I'm a young person. I've lived with this. Oftentimes, you trust your friends more than your parents. But you know what? There's this thing called growing up where you realize your parents are special and you do need them because that's how you exist is with your parents, whether you like it or not. So mend that role now or cut it off early. Make your decision. Fence sitting is not a good idea when it comes to family conflicts. That's what this California law does. It puts children on the fence and tells them don't fall off. That's
Well,
that's
interestingly enough, the new law comes after several school districts in California passed policies requiring that parents be notified if a
yeah.
child
So this is a
requests
reactionary law to the
to
will of the people.
change their gender identification. So that led to pushback by Democratic state officials. I call them dictators, who
In
say
California, they are.
students have a right to privacy. Really? But
No.
Jonathan Zachrison, an advocate in California who supports the so called parental notification policies, opposes the law and said telling parents about a student's request to change their gender identification is critical to the well being of children and for maintaining that trust between schools and parents. That's common sense. So, states across the country have sought to impose bans on gender affirming care, bar transgender athletes from girls and women's sports, and require schools to out trans and non binary students to their parents. Some lawmakers in other states have introduced bills with broad language requiring that parents are told of any changes to their child's emotional health or well being. So there was a state, I can't remember off the top of my head, that has already banned it. And now some other states are following suit, but then your radical ones like California, they're going in the other direction. So the California law led to heated debate in the state legislature. The alphabet lawmakers have shared stories about how it was difficult for them to decide when to come out to their families, arguing that transgender students should be able to share that part of their identity on their own terms. State Assembly member Bill Isaili, a Republican representing part of Riverside County, is an outspoken opponent of the law. He has criticized Democratic leaders for preventing a bill he introduced last year. that would have required parents to be told of their child's gender identification change from receiving a hearing. In Northern California, the Anderson Union High School District Board approved a parental notification policy last year, but the teachers union recommended that teachers not enforce the rule while the union is involved in a labor dispute with the district over the policy. And Shay Stevens, an English teacher and president of the Teachers Association at the district, agreed with that, of course. The notification policies put teachers in an unfair position, Stevens said. It's kind of a lose-lose situation for teachers and administrators or anybody that's being asked to do this. I don't think it's safe for students, she said. I do not think we are the right people to be having those conversations with a parent or guardian. Are you kidding me?
But you can keep it from the parents.
Yeah,
so you can't have a conversation, but you can keep it from somebody. Okay, that sounds honest.
And
right?
you can interpose yourself in the place of the parent and have the conversation with the confused student.
Okay,
and
I have an idea. If I smoke weed or drink at my high school, let's say I go back in time and I go to high school. If I smoke cigarettes or whatever and drink on campus, I don't want my parents to know that either, because that'll create a very difficult conversation for me.
Exactly.
If I steal something, if somebody steals something at school, let's not tell the parents, because that's a very difficult conversation that they might want to have. You can do this for anything, and it makes about as much sense. It's like, no, your parents have a right to know what you're doing.
That's just a slippery slope. I mean,
it goes beyond the LGBT thing.
We're talking about trans and LGBT, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I can't even say those letters.
Well, it's changed about 6 times since you were,
I'm just going to call it the alphabet. See, the alphabet group is always coming up with something else. And it's the classic case of the tail wagging the dog.
That's a good analogy for it, honestly.
This has gone so beyond the pale, and I'm glad to see some parents and some legislators,
even in California,
they're fighting back and they're pushing back. But my God, you can't continue down this path and think that you're going to have a good outcome. It's not going to. All it's going to do is drive a wedge between the parents and the children, and then you're going to have even more confused children, more depressed children, and potentially break up families and cause other issues that would not have been there to begin with. I have to believe that most parents care about their kids, and they're not going to overreact to things that they may be going through. Not to say that there aren't those fringe ones that are out there, but those are few and far between. I mean,
exactly.
It's not like it's the mainstream. So
when you're a kid, you think your parents are much worse than they actually are, because you don't know yet. You haven't been old enough to make the big mistakes that'll make them mad, and that mad is usually just worried about you. It takes time. We go through that teenage phase of, our parents don't really care about us. But then you learn, again, that's what's called growing up. And that's honestly what these Democrats don't want. They don't want us to grow up. They don't think we're worthy of being adults. And then they wonder why we're, begging for power and the ability to buy houses and good jobs and stuff. It's like Democrats don't give you those things because you're a child to them and always will be. In the Republican Party, you're an adult. So start acting like one.
Exactly.
You deserve it.
So now let's switch gears and go into one of our favorite topics, and that is Kamala. She is now flip-flopped, or started to flip-flop on just about every major issue that she decided was going to hurt her in her campaign, because
just like Hillary Clinton did.
Yep, exactly. So now we have Kamala jumping out and denying what she's been doing all along.
Yeah, they need to pass out flip-flops, because now there's an article in the New York Times where her campaign is anonymously saying she's actually flip-flopped on 4 big issues. Now, all of a sudden, she is for fracking. Do you hear that, Pennsylvania?
Right.
She wants to increase funding on the border after she already said she wants to reimagine ICE. She does not want a mandatory buyback on guns, even though we heard the soundbite. She said she'll come to your door, she'll pay you for your guns, and it's mandatory.
Ainsley, this is why you have primaries. This usually gets worked out during the primaries.
Right. And no longer supports single-payer health insurance plans like she said she would support.
She would have lost the primary because she would run on this unless she was going to primary for 7 or 8 months and change her mind on this. This is why this is so unfathomable, unthinkable, and unprecedented, because she's unvetted, even though she's in power, because she did so little. You're forced to go back to 2020 when she ran and failed spectacularly. And now to run again, she's got to change everything she believes in and has said, and she wants us to accept it. It's never before has this happened.
She wants us to believe it. It's not going to happen. I mean, she has the most progressive, liberal voting record.
Yeah,
more so than Bernie Sanders.
You know, Ainsley, I don't know that they need to.
Yes, let's not forget, or let's not hide the fact that she is labeled the most radical person to ever run for president, male or female, Republican or Democrat,
including Obama and Clinton.
In fact, she makes Obama and Clinton look like Reagan.
Honestly, no. As a person who grew up in politics around Obama, no. Obama sounds conservative to me on certain things when you go back and listen to him. Not many, but certain things compared to Kamala.
But we know what he said and did are 2 different things.
There you go. And especially for us Hispanics, we got to remember.
He pulled the wool over the eyes of millions of people and hid behind the racial thing and said, vote for me because I'm black and you want to be part of history and elect the first black president in American history.
And now Kamala's doing that with women and 2 different races that she has. So
yes, well, we'll talk more about her race. Hold on.
Pass out flip-flops like they did back with Kerry back in the day. They just need to label, and I'm sure they will label her as a flip-flop. But here's the thing. When you look at the biggest flip-flops in American presidential history, the first one, obviously, was George Herbert Walker Bush when he said, read my lips, no new taxes. What happened to him? He lost. Then John Kerry, the ultimate flip-flopper, he was for the war in Iraq before he was against the war in Iraq. And what happened to him? He lost. So, will that be something that will disqualify her? We got less than 100 days to find out.
Seven major flip-flops, and she hasn't said them. She just leaked them to a newspaper. And now, can't wait for that first sit-down interview.
She's got more flip-flops than Walmart. That's where we buy our flip-flops.
Right.
That is.
Right.
She's going to be the chancla president.
La chancla Kamala, man.
Kamala la chancla.
This is too easy right now, man. They should have just kept with Biden. At least then we couldn't make fun of his name. They're like, well, at least we got that. He's demented, but at least he's not a communist.
I had one ready for him, but I'm not going to say it now.
That's okay. See, now we don't even see. It's very unfortunate for anybody or our fans or anything who bought anti-Biden merch and they just took that away from you. And we have to make some kind of clever change.
I'll give you a hint. It has to do with with an item in a bathroom.
There you go. Put that in the comments, people, if you want. Well, probably not comment on it. You might get deleted. But comment something nice if you know what he's talking about.
So, her little honeymoon is starting to fade a little bit. And yesterday or the day before, she holds a rally. And in order to hold the rally, she brings a concert, basically, to bring people in. Okay, so they had this rally that opens with a concert, and the word on the street is that as soon as the concert was over and she started to speak, people started to walk out. So she lured people in for the free concert, and they came for that, but they didn't want to hear what she had to say.
Now, it should be said, concerts at Trump rallies are usually very much towards the end of them. And nobody leaves before.
Well, he doesn't do concerts.
Well, he did for us at the RNC.
Yeah, but that's a different.
I know. I
scenario. I'm talking regular rallies. Trump does his opening music and then his closing music, but he doesn't do live
I
concerts.
know, but no, he doesn't have to. Is the point? You know what I
No,
mean? And he did it for us out of sort of like difference because Kid Rock is supporting him. He's got all of these rappers and all these musicians supporting him. Who was the musician that Kamala had? Megan the Stallion. I mean, who
I
likes
don't.
that girl outside of lefty circles?
I have
mean,
no idea who she is.
you
So
probably don't want to. It's not.
you're talking Greek to me. I watched like a little 10-second thing of the concert.
All the dancing and everything.
The
And you just couldn't
dancing.
take it.
That's all I needed to know. But
Think about
even
the old Democrats who are watching that in that crowd. Do you think they liked it?
but even with all of that, what do you think the size of her crowd was?
Well, I mean, if I had to listen to the mainstream media, about 20,000 people,
Yeah,
30,000.
no, wasn't even close.
Oh man, the mainstream media lied. Oh no, I had no idea.
Oh yeah.
How much
no.
was it, Hugo? Do we know?
Well, estimates I've seen is less than 2,000.
Whoa,
They just
that's not so
the
good.
way they panned the cameras and tried to make it look like it was a much bigger crowd.
As they do.
That's what they do. Okay, and Trump's rally in New Jersey was 107,000. So his one rally will equal more than all of Kamala's rallies combined, is my prediction.
I could believe that.
So, it's just pathetic. Now she's flip-flopping on every single one of her issues. And what happened? Did we lose connection?
No, we're all good. We're all good for right now. It just delayed for a second. But one thing that we Hispanics really, really need to blast out there in the information sphere. This is a woman who started her career as the mistress of the mayor of San Francisco. Her job was to put young minorities in prison for relatively minor crimes, usually to be used effectively as slave labor by the state of California. The
And
state of
she was-
California
wait a
that
minute,
Gavin Newsom now runs.
Don't leave out the fact that she was 29 and Willie was 60.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with that for a second. And she's still childless presently, even with her. She's a sort of stepmother to her husband's kids.
Mhm.
And there's room for that. There is room for that. But at the same time, people, and JD Vance have actually talked about this, you really need, if you're running a country, to have investment in the future of the country, like physically, blood relation-wise. You need to have an investment in this country. But she doesn't have an investment in this country, so she certainly doesn't have any investment in foreign countries. When she was border czar, her job wasn't just the border. She's vice president. She's a diplomatic envoy of the United States. She could have went to Central American countries, South American countries, say, hey, what do you need? What do you need to avoid these communist socialist governments that cause more migrants? She didn't care about our Monroe Doctrine. She didn't care about our diplomacy with Hispanic American states. And that's where the immigration comes from, people. When we are not doing our job as the sovereign of the Americas, other American countries suffer. Like we had Javier Milei, that was a really good positive thing. But then look at Brazil. They tossed out Belisario because he liked Trump. They tossed out other people in other governments. They had a military coup in Bolivia, other places. This is all a dereliction of U.S. leadership. People have to understand, with Trump out of office, with America not having strength, the rest of the world suffers. That's just a fact. And Hispanic America more than most. That's why you see Brazil moving towards China. That's another thing of Biden's failures and Kamala's failure. Like the Clintons, they change for polling, and they don't know what Hispanics want because, frankly, they don't care about our votes. But you've all heard Hugo's statistics. You've all heard the statistics that we shout from the rooftops all the time. When Hispanics mobilize, elections get won. That's what we need to do now that we have Kamala Chancla, who has done nothing for us and will do nothing for us, except maybe throw more of us in jail.
And that's nothing. That's nothing compared to the fact that she's promoting herself as a black person.
No, I forgot about that.
Oh my goodness. Are you there?
Yes, we're good. But
okay. I lost my screen here.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
You'll get back in a few minutes.
Or
a few moments. There we go. But
virtual background shut down. Okay.
That's okay. But yeah, she because really she's not an African American at the end of the day. Barack Obama was at least from Africa, his family lineage at least. Whereas Kamala, she's Jamaican and Indian, and there's nothing wrong with being either of those things, but you got to represent yourself as you really are,
Yep.
And these people, they don't do that. They be whatever they need to be in order to get votes, and that's why we know they're fake. Kamala Harris is a phony candidate. She's a phony person, and that's just the problem. You can never be a real person after starting your political career being the mistress of a mayor, someone in the legal profession who should be all about justice and integrity. You start your business like that, you wonder why no one's buying you. But we will be seeing that more in the polling, I'm sure, because they haven't polled Hispanics as a group too much lately, I notice.
I've lost my. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay, Hugo. You can keep going with your voice and everything like that. That's what people want to hear.
Yeah.
When that gets mixed up, we can do that.
So basically, as I mentioned earlier, I been having trouble with this computer. So now it's basically lost my video connection. So
that's okay. It's funny. We actually, folks, we wanted to say goodbye to our producer Peter. Actually, he moved off to other things, and we're actually looking to get some other people. There are some other people who are on deck to want to be our next Hispanic Patriot producer. So look out for that. People adding someone to the team very soon after.
Yep. So I'm trying to figure out what we've got. So basically, like I was saying, I've been watching some videos of what the Black community is thinking about Kamala and her and basically.
Oh, I'm sorry, folks. We may have lost Hugo here. That's all right. We will get back on track in just a little bit. The other thing that we were talking about backstage, me and Hugo, about Kamala, is the fact that she isn't just a flip-flopper, but what she's been consistent about has constantly been Marxist rhetoric, communist rhetoric that you usually get out of the sort of California far-left crowd. Kamala also really has never been moderated in her far leftism, like, say, Nancy Pelosi or even someone like Sheila Jackson Lee used to be. This is why they're called the California communists, is because when they go to DC, they find that their power really is limited, especially in battleground states like Michigan, like in Minnesota, like in Wisconsin, like in the Rust Belt in general. These areas generally don't respond well to, like I said, the California communist kind of brigade, because these people don't know how to moderate. And one reason they don't know how to moderate is because they've never actually been outside of their comfort zone, whether in power in California or in power with their clique in DC. So things like diplomacy, even international diplomacy, these are foreign words to these people. So when Kamala Harris wants to be the president, wants to be our highest diplomatic envoy, she has no real experience. Let that sink in for everybody. Kamala Harris has no real experience in foreign policy. That should scare anybody from voting from her, or scare anybody out of voting for her completely. She was sent to do basically one thing, the Ukraine Peace Summit in Switzerland, and she basically did nothing, was a do nothing at this meeting from all reports, all European sources, etc. This is completely unacceptable that the Democrats want to put this kind of person up as their representative, again, without having received one primary vote. Presumably everything will be worked out during the Democratic National Convention, which we will be bringing to you as a Hispanic Patriot. We will be bringing you the Democratic National Convention when it happens. I believe that is the 19th to the 22nd, if I remember correctly. It's about 3 days, and we will see what kind of circus we can dig up information for you folks about, because we actually don't know anybody. And I should say something. We don't know anybody who's going to the DNC this year. Now, me and Hugo, we have Democrat friends. I have quite a lot of Democrat friends. a lot of people from my home state, which is where in Chicago, Illinois, where the Democratic National Convention will be being held. I don't know anyone who's going. And what that means is that they probably don't have anybody in their delegations who are really grassroots, who are really going to shake, the coconut tree, I guess we could say, in Kamala Harris's words, not mine. They're going to shake up things. That's why they weren't elected delegates on their slates. That's why they weren't given any sort of authority as superdelegates, which we know Republicans don't have, which is another reason to look at Republicans over Democrats. Republicans just can't take your vote away at the end of a convention. So these are all very scary things about Kamala Harris. We'll be going to the Hispanic community more and more in order to tell people and inform people of like I said, the real dangers of a potential Harris administration. It doesn't really matter who her vice president is. What matters is that the head, the person who would be in charge of anything, is so rotten. And I think I can say that because, again, they put young men, like me, like my colleagues in the Black community, like colleagues in the Asian community, because people have to understand there's a lot of Asian communities in California. She put, when I say they, I mean her machine that she cooked up with, again, her, for all intents and purposes, Mr. I could use harsher language, but I won't. These people put young men like me in jail for minor offenses to use them effectively, like I said, as slave labor for the state of California. That should be plastered in every minority community. That should be plastered in every Hispanic and Black community. This is the person who wants to be your president. It's very, very shameful. So while we're waiting for Hugo, though, we could talk about another humorous story. Well, perhaps a more humorous story, I should say, which is the Olympic Games. I'm sure many of you have seen this and the backlash to it online and elsewhere. And we probably don't have to show any images because you can get a very, very good picture by just picturing a sort of a bunch of overweight people doing some sort of performance art, trying to replicate a Renaissance painting. That's essentially what actually happened here with these Olympic Games that we had. Basically, so the opening ceremony, if you hadn't seen it, basically was a tribute to at least the original directors, producers, all these people claimed that they were sort of tableauing the Feast of the Gods, which is La Feston de Dieu, and that is French. In case I mispronounced that, I apologize if you're offended. You're probably French, and I don't care. As a joke. But basically, this painting was made by a Dutch artist, Jan de Belliot, and he basically was part of a clique of painters in Rome. So they were very heavily influenced by classical artistry, sort of Greek and Roman type of stuff. During this time he painted this, it was obviously sort of a paganist sort of rendition of the Last Supper. And what this, I say all this to make the point that the argument online and in other spheres is that this Olympic Games opening was a complete insult to Christianity, particularly the Last Supper, and that the people on stage and doing all the things that they were doing was just mocking Christianity, was mocking the Catholic Church, mocking anything from this era that was being attacked during this time and now, because the attacks on the church never really change, it should be said. The attacks against Christians never really change. It's always mockery, and when mockery doesn't work, they resort to violence. Well, in France, being such a secular culture, you're not even allowed to wear crucifixes in public places. They might have relaxed that since I've known, but as far as I know, especially in public school, there is no display of religion whatsoever. It's an extremely secular society. So this sort of rendition of Greek paganist stuff, it's more about, it's about the culture rather than the religion. I disagree. And the reason is because while there's an argument between Christians, pagan, this influence of where actually the insult was being directed towards, I would say it's being directed towards Western civilization in general. The Christian foundation of our civilization is unmeasurable. It is the primary thing that we are in the West, is Christian. Again, that started from a universal perspective. It had been broken up over the centuries due to various political reasons, but we are ultimately a Christian Western civilization. When you talk about Western civilization, you're talking about a Christian foundation. But below that foundation, and interspersed with that foundation, is a Greco-Roman tradition. And the Greeks and Romans thought about religion very separately from us Christians, but the things that the Romans actually believed in is a strict belief in religiosity, whereas the Greeks were a little bit more fluid about it. Well, if you could believe that, that's totally fine, but if you don't really believe, that's not important. That's what the Greeks believed. The Romans believed that their religiosity was central to their success as a people. And so politics and religion were always combined in the Roman Empire. So, what's important to keep in mind when people keep saying that this Olympic opening was, that's not Jesus, that's Dionysus, that's those people. They're all claiming that it's Greek gods. We look at the media, it's all Greek, Greek, Greek. Jan van Bijlet was not painting a Greek scene. That is not Dionysus. That is Bacchus. That is the Roman god, actually. So the people who are claiming, the producers and directors, this is all just a Greek thing. It's the Feast of Dionysus. That's actually, they're also being incorrect. They don't know what the hell they're doing, is the main takeaway from all of this. They don't know what the hell they're doing when they put on this mockery of Western civilization. It doesn't matter if it's Christian and it's the Last Supper. It doesn't matter if it's pagan and the Feast of Dionysus, Feast of Bacchus, whatever. It's actually called Feast of the Gods in its original incarnation. Those gods are not real in the understanding of modern Western traditions. We understand them maybe as our ancestors who were really awesome, and so we deified them, like they tried to do with Emperor Augustus at the same time of Jesus. They called Emperor Augustus the Son of God, while the real Son of God was being killed by his agents in Jerusalem, working with the elites of the area. So when you have these debates between Christians and pagans about, is this the Last Supper or the Feast of the Gods or whatever, you're actually having sort of a false dichotomy. Both of these traditions helped establish the civilization that we presently live in. Both paganism for a shorter time and Christianity for a larger time are the things, will always be the things that make the beautiful place that we live in. And America is a product of Western civilization, bar none. Bar none. Whether anyone wants to say, we're a product of the Enlightenment, we're a product of this, we're a product of that. We're a product of all Western civilization, both the Enlightenment that was contemporary at the time, which was much later than many of the other Enlightenment thinkers in Europe, which means we got to actually receive Enlightenment doctrines that had gone through the stress tests of European history, which I don't need to tell you, if you were living through it at the time, was probably very stressful. America, therefore, recognizing the flaws in their own time, looked to the past, looked to our Greek and Roman past. And that's why the United States of America is a Greek and Roman place, as well as an English place, because of the various ways that we came about. We're also a Spanish place, a French place, the territory that we bought from Napoleon, the territory that we bought from Spain, the territories of Mexico, which were all settled by Spanish-speaking people hundreds of years before the United States. All of these pieces have gone into the United States of America. And so we don't want to just think, this is just, as we might say, one kind of America. Remember from the recent Civil War movie, what kind of American are you? That's going to come to an end soon. And it's going to come to an end because what we see is stuff like this Olympic Games mockery. The enemies of Western civilization who live within Western civilization They don't like any of us, whether we're the Spanish, whether we're the French, whether we're the English, whether we're black, white, Jewish, or anything in between, whether we're Asian, whether we're Muslim. That's not really important to them. What's important is that we here in the United States of America believe in a common Western civilization. And what's really amazing is that America has gotten people who believe in many different religions to believe in the United States of America. So when the Olympic Games insults Western civilization, whether it's pagan, Christian, whatever, they're insulting you, no matter who you are, because you live in the United States of America. And it looks like we might have to go back.
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you. We can see you.
Well, I'm on my backup computer, but I think we're going to have some latency issues. So I think I'm going to bow out and let you finish.
Oh, that's totally fine, Hugo. As we say here in Hispanic Patriot, si se puede. We can do it, no matter how much little money we have. If anybody would like to help out with that, please, we have a donate button on the website.
Yes, we need your help to get better equipment.
Yes, I wanted to remind everybody who's watching, me and Hugo have actually put very little, I'll say, material effort into what we're doing here. A lot of our equipment is secondhand. A lot of our stuff here is software that we can afford. And the reason for that is very simple, is because we wanted to bring you this message while the time is right. We are living amid history, the most important time in American history, perhaps. And we're willing to sacrifice a little bit of material lack of perfection in order to bring you the perspective of information that you need. Because perfection is never the enemy of good. Good is good enough on its own.
Yep. Now you know that we're organic here.
Yep. No one can call us, astroturfed here.
So I'm kind of choppy here, so I'm going to bow out, but Nick will finish up, and we'll hope to improve on everything here in the next few days.
Yes, we actually have a lot of improvement coming very, very soon, and look forward to that. Especially, we'll have announcements on the Facebook page for any big expansions that we have, because we're looking to expand very soon. We have very many things in the works, and we will bring it all to you when it happens, our dear viewers.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nick. We'll see you.
Oh. See you, Hugo.
Hasta la vista.
Very good. God bless America. And we want to thank you, Ash. Exactly. We have so many cultures and countries. We have so many places around the world who, Americans need to learn something, that we are more beloved than we know. People like to make jokes and stereotypes. So, people don't really, people hate Americans. We don't like you. That's not usually really true. It really isn't, especially in Europe, especially in Africa, especially in Asia. You might even in Hispanic America get people who are just joking with you. And I assure you, they are just joking with you. We like to make fun. We like to poke fun in Hispanic America. That is why we're not easily offended people at all. Hispanic America loves Americans. Europe loves Americans. Africa loves Americans. Asians love Americans. They all come here and they all learn to love what we love. And that is how nations are spread, through love. And that's why you really don't see much love towards this Olympic Games in opening, because frankly, it was culturally insulting. That's how I'll conclude this bit on the opening of the Olympics, is that it was culturally insulting. There was no creation of culture here. It was just its denigration for fun. You can make bonfires out of a lot of things. Don't make them out of books. Don't make them out of our culture. Don't make them out of things that you should find beautiful. Ask it, when you saw that opening, was that beautiful to you? No, it wasn't. Our civilization is based on truth, good, and beauty. And that's why Westerners of all types were disgusted by what they saw. So do better next time, France, Olympics, etc. So we'll be very hopeful for the next Olympics, and pray, bless their hearts, France, do better, etc. So, dogging on the French being completed to acceptable levels, we will jump into our final story, which is Hugo did have the news for that, but that's perfectly fine because we don't actually have a lot of concrete news about this next story, and that is Venezuela. Venezuela. What we know so far is that Venezuela had an election. And the powers that be really didn't like that election results. Starting to sound familiar, anybody? These results were contested by the people. The people went to the streets and protested, saying, "We believe that we were cheated. We believe that we received more organic votes. We believe that the system is rigged against us. We believe that the government should, at the very least, step down in its current form to allow the elections to be carried out by non-biased sources." I'm sensing a little bit of familiarity with our own American troubles, don't you, my fellow Americans? The Venezuelan people are doing very little different. In fact, they're going even further because the military and police, there are factions, as far as we know, within the military and police who are completely sympathetic to the protesters. They are completely sympathetic to the protesters. We really did not have that on January 6th. People say, "Oh, well, cops were letting people in and stuff." This is mostly out of two observations that the cops probably had. Number one, these people are not really being violent. They just want to get somewhere. Let's just let them go to where they want to go, and maybe everything will be fine. For the most part, it was. Until somebody, it was a member of the police, the DC police, decided to shoot a woman instead. That is what they decided to do instead of continuing their plan of just letting the political expression play itself out. We can only pray very hard that Venezuela doesn't experience even that much. As soon as shooting starts, as soon as involuntary detentions start, as soon as, God forbid, any sort of police events that may result in the end of Venezuelan lives. This should be completely unacceptable. Let me ask you a question, though, viewers. Completely unacceptable to what or who in the executive office of the United States of America? Joe Biden's a lame duck. He's told us so a couple weeks ago, or a few days ago, in fact. He can't run for re-election. He can barely run the country. That's what he told to everybody in the world. He told it to Putin. He told it to Xi. He told it to Nicolas Maduro. You know, I think it's kind of funny, just as a quick aside, that Hugo Chavez Rey shares a name with Venezuela's first hated dictator, and me, Nicolas, share a name with, hopefully, the second, maybe even gunning for first place, most hated dictator of Venezuela. With that only real bit of humor in this aside, we have no American president. The seat is vacant when it comes to our executive branch. And so dictators around the world will think, well, I can suppress my people. Who's gonna care? That's another thing Joe Biden did by being dishonest about his health. He didn't care that he made this announcement before the Venezuelan elections. He could have. We know that Barack Obama and Joe Biden care a lot about dates. When it's ending missile defense systems in Europe at the Russians' demand on the 70th anniversary to the day of the Russian invasion of Poland. That happened. You could look it up. This is the kind of thing that Joe Biden doesn't care about. Symbolism. He doesn't care about the symbolism of American strength that he's abandoned. And that's why you will see things more like Venezuela in the coming months. We already see Bibi Netanyahu, Zelensky, Vladimir Putin, European leaders. We all see them visiting and calling Donald Trump. People already know that he's going to be the next president. Don't you want to be on the winning team? We should ask voters out there. But I'll tell you this about Venezuela. The Venezuelan people are a great people. They will be able to survive this. they will be able to grow in their love of freedom, just like the Cubans, just like Brazilians and Argentinians and Mexicans, Peruvians, every single Hispanic group, by the end of this wave of leftism and communism in Hispanic America, will come out wanting something, wanting a new way of life. Because conservatism, as we understand it in the United States, really doesn't exist in Hispanic America. It exists more as sort of a reactionary kind of, very moderate kind of rhino kind of vibe. That's what most Hispanic conservative groups are like. And this is from a number of historical factors that we'll be talking about in our upcoming Hispanic American history series, where we try to make everybody understand that their Hispanic culture is something to be proud of. It's something to bring to the United States of America, to strengthen it, because a lot of our history has been about sort of preparing ourselves for this exact moment in history in the United States. And we'll get into that in other series. But for right now in Venezuela, the important thing to remember is that the Venezuelan people have no alternative aside from a broad coalition of various people who just agree they don't like the current government. Hispanic America needs a new way of thinking. And I think very much, not out of any arrogance, it should come from Hispanics in the United States of America. Because we are living through pivotal times in the most important country in the world. We call ourselves the greatest country in the world. It's not just an exaggeration. It's not just arrogance. What we do here affects the entire world. And we should never stop saying that. We should never stop believing that, because it's true, always. If we in Hispanic America can learn the lessons of this country, we can collect them, refine them, and bring them back to our home countries. Or I should say, because America is our home country, our ancestral countries. Even in Spain, where, as we know, socialists often do very bad things when they take power. And through Spain, as a very important part of the European Union, we can influence Europe as well. So Hispanic Americans have so much to bring to the United States in terms of this very large pan-cultural connection. We shouldn't abandon that, and we shouldn't think about it as minor, because that's what Joe Biden does. That's what Kamala Harris does. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden couldn't care less at all about Hispanic America. They're concerned about whether or not they get enough votes from other communities, primarily the black community, and primarily, people don't talk about this, the Democrats are very reliant on older white communities. And the reason for this is simple. They control the welfare. In Venezuela, why do people support the government? Because they control the welfare. In Democrat America, seniors can be fear-mongered to say, those Republicans want to take away everything from you. We Democrats, we're the ones who made Social Security. We made Medicare. We made all of this. We could take it away by letting the Republicans win. So don't you want to vote for us? The same thing happens in every socialist communist government, every Marxist government, and even non-Marxist governments, like modern Russia. They say, we will take away everything we've given you. Well, in the United States of America, we have a different formula. In the spirit and the philosophies of Hispanic America, who were influenced by the revolutions, we have a different philosophy. I get the political rights for myself, and I keep them by expanding my power to vote, not just vote, to organize, not just votes, but organizations of labor, organizations of your own businesses, organizations of our churches and communities. That is what Hispanic people know how to do. That is what Americans know how to do. This is one people. This is one continent. So what happens in Venezuela, it matters here. Because those people who are rioting against their government, You don't think they think about January 6th? You don't think they think about when Americans stood up to their government and said, well, if Americans can do it, I can too. Si se puede. If America can do it, why can't we do it? We have systems of control in the United States of America that the Venezuelan government couldn't dream of. Yet, our Constitution stops the radical Democrats and the communist Californians from enacting Venezuelan type systems, policies, laws. In Venezuela, they have a law called the Law Against Fascism. Ooh, the Law Against Fascism. Who would be against that? Well, we in the United States of America know better. We, who've been watching the rhetoric of Russia, know better. Anything they don't like, they call them Nazis. Their war aims in Ukraine still include denazification, whatever that is. Would you like that if you were in Venezuela? Someone could call you a fascist or a Nazi and get rid of you? Well, they almost did it to Donald Trump here. And as he said before, they're after us. He's just standing in the way. They want to get rid of you by calling you a fascist. They want to get rid of you by calling you a Nazi. Getting rid of Donald Trump just makes that easier. So when we watch what's going on in Venezuela, remember something. They are looking to us. And they have nobody to look to until we elect Donald Trump as president of the United States. Then Hispanic America will have somebody in the White House to look to. And I don't care whether you're the most lefty Democrat in the world and you hate Donald Trump's guts and you've been making fun of the assassination attempt, you've been all these evil things. Remember one thing. If you know anybody like that, remind them that at least Donald Trump is a real person. You know who he is and you know that he's respected around the world. Kamala Harris is a gamble. She's a gamble even for the Democrats, whether people will respect her. We know in America, we can't respect somebody, like I said, who got her position as a mistress's mayor, throwing young Black and Hispanic and Asian men behind bars to serve as slave labor for the state of California. I will be repeating that line this entire election cycle because it's true. And I recommend all of you steal right along with that. Go right ahead. Use that line because it's true. So we make a prayer for Venezuela that they will be free and peaceful and prosperous and join the United States in leading this continent to a new prosperity under Donald J. Trump. Well, everybody, that's the last story that we have here on Hispanic Patriot, and we will be bringing you many more next week and all throughout the month, all throughout the year. We will not be abandoning our post here because we at the Hispanic Patriot truly believe that the energy, the freedom, the family, all the values that we grew up with, America desperately needs. America needs you. And we need you. So please like, comment, please subscribe, please share with all your friends. Some of our most successful videos have only happened because of you guys. Because you guys posted something we did somewhere where it got a lot of eyeballs on it. And we really appreciate all of you who helped us do that. I want you all to know that we have increased our subscriber count 1,000% in just these last 30 days. Before that, because of the way the algorithm and all of the dates work, it was almost 3,000%. That's how fast we're growing with no budget, with no anything, but just ourselves on the ground. And we have reached 35,000 people. That is our total view count now. And the reason I bring that up is not to brag, because obviously it's not very much compared to other bigger names. But there's not a lot of Hispanic voices out there in the Republican conservative circles like what we do. And we want to make sure that we can reach more people who come from the same places we do. Because as America gets scarier, we're going to need people who we know. But that's the good thing about introducing your friends to your friends. You meet all kinds of people. So make friends with your community, bring them to other communities. That is how America was born, and that's how America will grow. We appreciate all of you, all of us at Hispanic Patriot, me and Hugo, and all the Hispanic Patriots. We thank you very much for giving us this hour to talk to all of you. We send you a lot of love and a big hug, and we are very happy to do what we do for you. From all of us at Hispanic Patriot, thank you very much. We will be signing off. Until next time, thank you very much. God bless America, and bye-bye.